All right. How you doing, folks? Ron Raymond here from the Raymond Report, along with Ross Benjamin of RBWins.com for a Hump Day, Memorial Day, Veterans Day in the States, Remembrance Day here in Canada. So we're going to take this opportunity in a few minutes to remember our veterans and the people who serve. But right now, we're going to join Ross Benjamin of RBWins.com. How you doing, Ross?
Everything's great, Ron. I hope the same is for you.
Things are great, buddy. You know what? It's I know in the States it's Veterans Day, and here in Canada it's Remembrance Day. So I'd be remiss if we didn't take a few minutes to thank everybody who served on in the States or in Canada and all over the world. And it's a big day for me. I know I served 5 years in the Canadian Armed Forces, and I got a lot of friends that I'm touching out with today. So I salute them and thank everybody who served in our country and abroad.
Yeah, I mean, I laugh sometime when I hear NFL and college football players saying, I go to war with these guys every week. You don't go to war. You're playing a game. Okay. Yeah. Veterans in this country put their ass on the line to protect our freedoms. They put their, not asses, but they put their lives on the line. Sometimes there is no war, but they're ready to go if there is one, to defend our country, defend our freedom. So I certainly tip my hat to all the veterans out there. They're very much deserving of the recognition they get today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I echo that. And, it's always good to, every time me and my wife go to the States and we go to an event, we're always amazed by the how patriotic and last year we went to a Florida Panther game, and they had a gentleman out there, and he served in the Second World War. And he was something like 90 some years old, and it was just the tribute and you just feel the energy, right? And
sure.
Every time you go to a game, the flybys that always pumps me right up too. So yeah, no, it's like I said, it'd be remiss if we didn't take a minute to talk about that. And hey, we're gonna talk about some NFL today, Ross.
Look forward to it, Ron.
Yeah, did you do anything special last night with those MAC games or what?
I passed, but I do have a MAC game up for sale tonight at ATSStats.com. Right now, you can get it $35. You can now buy my picks on an individual daily basis, and you can still get the weekly and monthly packages as well. But I have the winning side in the Western Michigan and Toledo game that goes at 8 o'clock tonight on ESPN.
Yep. And as Ross just mentioned, right now I'll do a screen share and show people exactly some of the changes we've done here at ATSStats.com. So do you see your buddy Philip Rivers here?
Yes, I do.
All right. So now, folks, we've added a single, basically it's a shopping cart type thing where you can get all of our single pick packs, and we'll have an announcement in a few minutes where we're going to be announcing another handicapper who will be joining our show and the website. If there's three ways you can get our selections here at ATSStats.com. The free picks, where me and Ross give our free pick selection. So when you click on the free picks, you'll see a video, which we like to do videos to give our free picks because it's more personable, and people can see a face, like Ross always says, and they can match the face, the voice to the face. And you just see a writing. It's good too, but sometimes it's good to do a video. And the single picks, this is a new software we updated, and I want to take a minute to thank our programming team who've been working months on this. So when you click on single picks, Ross, and the view and audience, now you come to this page. And normally this video here is our daily show. So once we're done our daily show today, this will update, and you'll see the podcast of that day or the latest video that's on our.
Is that you or Dabo Sweeney in that background?
Yeah, you can tell it's Dabo before the Notre Dame game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of Notre Dame, here's the images on the side. Hey, they're always haunting him right now. Yeah. And when you scroll down, Ross, this is where you got your 5-star ESPN Jewel game of the week tonight on the game of between Toledo and Western Michigan. So, folks, if you are interested in this selection, now you got to register at ATSStats.com, which is free. And then once you do, you just click this checkbox, you hit buy selected pick, and then it'll take you to the process to buy the pick, and then you will get Ross's 5-star selection this evening.
Yeah, also, it's a one-time registration for the folks listening out there, so you don't have to register every time. Correct, Ron?
That's right. That's absolutely right. So once you register, and once you register for a free plan or a membership plan, then you have access to buying premium picks. And it's what's it called? Do you know who your clients are? A DYOI or something they call it in business terms, or so we know who's buying picks, and then we can put them in the right cart and all that information. And if you're interested in our premium picks, we'll also have that option here. We'll put it up here today. Like I said to Ross earlier, this is a brand new software out of the box, so we still haven't updated everything. You'll be able to get Ross's monthly or yearly selections for all sports or single sports, and myself. And might as well take this time right now, Ross, to and he's not here right now, but we will be welcoming Chip Trmus to the team here at ATSStats.com. Chip, a good friend of ours and yours, and you do a show with Chip every day, don't you?
Yeah, a show called The Winner's Circle on the OSGA YouTube channel. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, we do a late afternoon show Eastern time. So I would encourage you guys to view. Chip brings a lot to the table, as I was telling Ron. Glad to have him aboard here at ATSStats.com as well. Formerly, Chip was actually a weekly guest on CNN back in the early 2000s for 6 years. As a matter of fact, they would give him a 10-minute spot to go over some games. And so he's well-spoken. He's been around for a long time. He has a very good track record when it comes to winning. And I think you folks are going to enjoy having him right here on ATSStats.com and doing a podcast or two with Ron as well. So look forward to that. And I couldn't welcome a better guy aboard.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments, Ross. And, with yourself on the team, and we're building something, it takes time, right? We talk about a lot off air where you're building a business or a program. As much as you want to hit that home run, you got to keep hitting singles.
Yeah.
And we hit another single with Chip here, and we're building a good team of knowledge, experience, and you know what? We're having fun at the same time, and that's the important thing. Like I always say in coaching, there's two things you always want to do. You want to have fun; it's got to be rewarding too. And right now, it's a lot of fun doing these shows and having guys like Chip. Well, here's the Restinator. And yeah, having guys like Chip around brings a lot of experience along with yourself, and the benefit will be from the website, and the people who visit our website will be able to tap into all that experience and his picks, and hopefully we will get Chip on board here.
I mean, as much experience as me and Ron have, he has more, believe it or not. So yeah, experience is the key word right now, Ron.
Yeah. And if you just Google Chip, you'll see that he's, back in the Jim Feist days where Jim had his show in Vegas, and Chip was on there with all those the gold, something gold line or something they called it, right? Pro line. Yeah, Pro line. Yes, that's it. Pro line back in the day. Yeah.
Him, Dave Koken, Jim Feist, Scotty Spreitzer, those guys there, that crew there.
Yeah. Oh man, now you're taking me way back. Yeah, Dave Koken. Dave Koken, I still follow him there on Twitter and Facebook. He's still giving out his information. Sharp dude, Dave Koken is. And looking forward to having Chip. And again, folks, you can get a membership here each and every day right here at ATSStats.com. All right, Ross, yesterday we took a look at the college football games, and we got, before we get to some the recap of the NFL and talk about some of the games this week, which we won't do it totally in depth, but like, again, this is Hump Day Wednesday. It's still gathering information. It's still good to refresh what happened the past week, so you don't go into this week with the same mindset. But you do have to learn from what's going on. And but before we do, let's take a look at some of those games in the MAC here this evening with the computer pick. And actually, you know what? Let me go to the Rain Report. I got it. You know what? Here, I'm going to show some little things we've added here on the. I call these the report cards, the Rain Report cards. And what we do is we try to put as much information on this card in a nutshell, right? So this way you have like a basic fundamentals in one shot. And, it's when you handicap, Ross, I don't know if you're like me sometimes, but you when you see something and you can form a decision almost in the first 10 seconds of when you analyze something, like your gut feeling, your sixth instinct, you know what I mean?
Do that every Monday morning, Ron. When I look
Yeah.
at the upcoming week lines, I'll write down 4 or 5 games. And then, of course, I'm not married to that, but it's a starting point. So,
Yeah.
yes, I am like you in that regard.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I mean. Like, it's just when you see this game, you see the line, you're almost, your gut feeling tells you right away where you should be leaning or indicating, right? And yeah, it's funny. All right, Eastern Michigan taking on Ball State this evening. Now Ball State 8.5-point home favorite. The over under a 61.5. ATS forecast, the computer pick, gonna lean with Ball State here. 32.7, 26.7. The over under at 59.4. Ball State 0-1 on the year. So is Eastern Michigan. Last week they lost 38-31 to Miami, Ohio, who got spanked last night by Buffalo. So if that's any indicator of what to come here this evening. And then you got Eastern Michigan taking on Kent State, 27-23. I believe Kent State played last night. I can't remember if they won or lost.
Yeah, they won 48-14. They won handily again at a home game against Bowling Green. At Bowling Green.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. They crushed them.
Yeah. So I don't know how you feel about this one, Ross.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an opinion on the game. And again, the one game I do have an opinion on, I already mentioned, the Western Michigan Toledo game. This year, I mean, the only thing I could say, Eastern Michigan coming off a loss, Ball State coming off a big win. I believe that line has risen as high as 9.5 right now before I came on air when I checked it. But in any event, it's better than a touchdown. So I don't know, Ron. If we go by the law averages that we like to go by, Eastern Michigan might be worth a look here.
Yeah. Looking at the last 10 games between these two teams, Ball State has a 6-4 win advantage straight up, 5-5 against the number, but 8-2-0 to the over. And when Eastern Michigan travels to Ball State in their last 10 trips, 6-2-2 to the over. So a little bit of numbers pointing towards the over here this evening. And you know what? Since I've been looking at these max scores, a lot of these games have gone over. I might have to do a little bit of research to see where exactly the number stands so far this year. Yeah, so look at this, 9-4 to the over. I guess that's the MAC division here for road teams. Wow. So a lot of numbers pointing. Hey, are we surprised by now? We've been talking about over since baseball season.
Yeah. Again, Kent State, I mentioned 48-14, 62-24, excuse me, at Bowling Green yesterday. So if you look at the opponents based on what you just said, around Buffalo against Miami of Ohio, Buffalo crushed them last night, statistically on the scoreboard in every sense of the word. And Eastern Michigan barely loses to Kent State, a team who was a decisive winner last night. So even more so, you might want to take a look at Eastern Michigan here, plus the points, Ron. And yes, the MAC is a high scoring conference. Week 1, it was 4-2 to the over. Yesterday, I'm not sure how that made out, but I know obviously the Kent State game went over. Ohio obviously went under yesterday. In the Buffalo game, I'm not sure what the closing total on that game was, but the final was 42-10. But to elaborate on Ron's point, it has been historically a high-scoring conference, within conference, that is.
Yeah, I'm seeing 56 and 57 yesterday in that Buffalo game.
Yeah, I went under then. So right now, out of the box, there's been 9 games played in the MAC this year, and 5-4 to the over, Ron.
Okay. Now looking at the Ball State here, when they're home the last 3 years, 13-4 to the over. So, a lot of high scoring games at Ball States in the last 3 years, coming off a loss, which they did last week. Last 3 years, they're 11-2 to the over. So again, it's the bookmaker, with all these overs, they're probably just, okay, they don't want to go too drastic and putting up too much of a high number, because then they're going to get too much action on one side, right? So
yes.
When they put their lines up, there must be like, okay, let's hope that we get some action on both sides on this number here. So it's very,
I think it's a fair total, Ron.
Yeah, no, I think so too. 61.5. Yeah. You can't, it's not like Texas Tech here and TCU type thing, right? Or Baylor in those days. So, all right, let's take a look at the other game here tonight. I know we got Toledo against Western Michigan. I'm going to bring this up here. Toledo or there we go. All right. So Toledo going into tonight's game against Western Michigan. The Broncos a 2-point home favorite. I'm just going to take a look at the latest number here to see if it's still at that. Yep. So 2.5 all over the place. 58.5 is the number, the total. 30 to 30.8 for a slight edge. If you round that off, that's 31-30 for Toledo. And looking at the total, likes it at 60.8. So just a couple of points over the total here this evening. And when Western Michigan has faced Toledo in their last 10 games, they are 2-8 straight up, 4-6 against the number, 6-4 to the over. And when Toledo travels to Western Michigan, they are 6-4 straight up and against the spread, and 4-2 for the over/under. So as you can see right here, nothing really stands out except for this 2-8 record against Toledo. But Toledo's been a pretty good team program the last couple of years.
Yeah, Western Michigan wasn't bad a few years ago. They made it to a major bowl game under P.J. Fleck, who's now at Minnesota. And Toledo's been consistently a good program. They did finish 0-4 straight up in ATS in their last 4 games last year, so they fell off the cliff a little bit. And as you alluded to, Toledo has dominated the series, especially over the last 3 years. The Rockets are 3-0 straight up in ATS in their last 3 against Western Michigan. And again, folks, I have the winning side up right now at ATSStats.com. And this game will be on national television, ESPN. So, yes, you can watch it. And again, $35 right up at the ATS picks page.
Yeah,
ATS Stats picks page, excuse me.
That's right. Sorry, Ross. I forgot that this was the game you had that selection on. So, folks, if you are interested in this game, Ross Benjamin does have a pick. For some reason, I thought it was Central Michigan you had the selection. But no, Toledo, Western Michigan, Ross Benjamin does have a 5-star jewel play on this game. Central Michigan taking on Northern Illinois. Now, the Chippewas, a 7.5-point road favorite. The over-under is set at 57.5. ATS forecast, the computer pick, Ross likes the Chippewas here. I just like saying Chippewas. 36.17, 19.5. The over-under at 55.6. So it does, again, like it a hair under the total. Looking at last week for both these teams, Central Michigan, close one to Ohio, 30-27. And Northern Illinois, they faced Buffalo and they lost 49-30. But another high-scoring game. In both these games went over last week. And I don't know, maybe the law of average theory here, it plays an effect in the total. But coming off a win when Central Michigan is a road team, they are 7-3 straight up the last 3 years. And I don't see anything that really, I look for check marks here when I do the Raymond Report. That's where I know anytime you see a check mark, that there's a 60 or higher percentage stats. So that's what, and if you're ever wondering why these check marks are there, that's what it's all about.
So go back to the scores from last week, if you can. Yes, Northern Illinois loses to Buffalo at home, 49-30, failing to cover as a 14-point home underdog. But if you look inside the numbers in that game, Northern Illinois and Buffalo, the total yardage was almost identical. And that score is a bit misleading on 2 fronts. Number one, Buffalo scoring 49 against Northern Illinois. They scored 3 defensive touchdowns in that game. That's right. 3 defensive touchdowns in that game. Having said that, but you saw how good Buffalo looked yesterday against Miami, Ohio, Ron, just blowing them out. And Central Michigan barely gets by Ohio. And that's an Ohio team that struggled with Akron yesterday. Akron, a team who's now lost 14 straight games dating back to last year, and actually got their first cover in 2 years in that game at Ohio yesterday as a 27-point underdog, losing 24-10. So based on all that, I'd give a serious look to Northern Illinois to viewers and listeners out there.
Yeah, that's
Plus
a good point.
Points at home, you know.
Yeah, if they struggle against Akron, and then this is a 30-27 win. Yeah, so that's wow. All right.
In the law of averages, right, Ron? A team coming off a loss versus a team coming off a win, and also that law of averages favors a home underdog. So
yeah, no, that's a good point. And home dogs, I'd have to look at the actually, we can do right here. home dogs in college football this year so far. In the last 69.7. I don't know. I'll have to check that out. Home underdogs. That's straight up. Okay, sorry. Against the spread, 46.67, and the last 30 days 60.5. So home underdogs at against the spread 46.6 and 60.5 the last 30 days. So
what's the year to date? It says 69.78 on home underdogs. Is that right, Ron?
Yeah, I don't know what that. Yeah, that
can't
must
be
be
right.
an error. Yeah, it must be an error in the system.
Something to go back in and look at after your show. I always got you working too hard, buddy.
Yeah, I know. Then what this is.
We gotta make these corrections because this is all automated and it's nothing to do. It's not like Ron's entering this manually. Sometimes there's just a glitch in the computer at times.
Yeah, no, and that's just it. It must be a glitch because what we can do though is when we go to the SBI, we know there's no glitch here. When we go to the SBI and the college football, we know. Let me see here. The underdogs, just ATS underdogs, is on the year 48.8 to 50%. So the favorites, so 50% for the underdogs. But you know what? Now that you've got me thinking,
against the spread, so it's an level playing field in college football, Ryan, as opposed to the NFL, right?
Yeah. But here's the thing we can do though: we can go to home underdogs this current season in college. Let me see and make sure I got college football here. Yep. So we'll go home underdogs college football this season. And let's see what the record says here. While it's formulating. All right. Yeah, pretty even. 59 and 60, 35 and 84. But look at this, a little edge to the over here. 70, 49 and 0. Interesting numbers right there. Let's see what road underdogs are doing so far this year. Way underdogs, current system. And the 103 to 93, 43 to 151 straight up, and 89 to 101. Home underdogs pretty much doing well against the spread in that regards. All right, let's take a look at the NFL from the prior week. Had a good week in the college NFL. Overall, Ross, I went 4-1 and 5-1 with the free pick. And looking at week number 9, just a quick little recap here. Green Bay, San Fran. You know what? Before we do, Ross, I want to show a new tool I have here at ATS. I don't know if you can see this. Perfect. So basically what you do is go to NFL, go to points for, points against ranking, and you can see the offense and defensive ranking on the season of both teams, of both units, offense and defense. So as you can see right here, Seattle, even though they lost this weekend, still ranked number 1 on offense, 34.25 points for. And the worst offense is the Jets, 13.4. And Dallas, the worst defense at 32.2. And then Baltimore, 17.75 points against on defense. So the number 1 defense. Yeah. Hey, are we surprised Baltimore, the best defense? They've been like this for a decade almost. When you think of great defenses, right?
Especially over the last 2 years, and they're very adept at getting turnovers and turning those turnovers either into converting them into touchdowns via short field for their offense, or like last week, returning the fumble for a touchdown. They're very good in that regard.
Yeah, and then when you click on the button here, game matchups, now you see who's playing who this week, and then you can see the ranking on offense here against the ranking on defense. So you don't have to go search for it, right? The one thing, when you got a site like this and the information's all over the place, you're trying to put it in a format where you can see it on one screenshot and you don't have to go searching everywhere for it, right? So this is a pretty good tool to use. Things I like to look for is whenever you got teams like let me see, a good example is this here, Jacksonville. No, that's not a good one. But what is Jacksonville, Green Bay's defense ranking 17th? They have such a great offense, ranked number 3. But look at this, Green Bay 17th ranked defense. So that's a little bit of a telling tale right there.
Plus the fact they've played a very soft schedule to this point.
Yeah.
The defense could be exposed against quality teams going forward.
Well, like last year, right? Green Bay, we thought they were going to be a team that was going to make some noise, but almost a little bit like Baltimore when you play the big boys. It's a totally different story, right?
Yep. Look at the New York Giants. Is
Yep.
that their defense? Look at that, number 13. I don't think a lot of people realize that. That's not bad for a team that's 2-7. Is that their defensive ranking, right, Ron?
Yeah, defensive ranking, points against.
Yeah,
yeah,
not bad.
Not bad.
You got to keep an eye on that. It's when the Giants are an underdog against a mediocre to below average team. So, like last week, they were an underdog against Washington, and they came up roses in that game. So,
yeah, and the week before they played Tampa Bay, and look what they did to Tampa Bay on Monday night, right?
Should have won the game outright. Yep.
Yeah. So, and when Tampa Bay, we'll get to that later on in the week. They've shown cracks in the armor in the last couple of weeks on offense and defense. They got exposed a bit. When you don't get exposed when you play Drew Brees. Drew Brees will find ways to be Drew Brees. He's future Hall of Famer. He's like Peyton Manning. Great quarterbacks. If it was Phillip Rivers that did that, then I can say they got exposed. But but when it's Drew Brees,
tell us how you really feel, Ron.
Yeah, no, exactly. Hey, I'm happy because I was on New Orleans. So yeah. All right. Let me see. Washington, Detroit. Nothing really stands out. Arizona against Buffalo. 6th ranked. This is gonna be a great game this weekend. I'm really looking forward to this game. And again, look at this. Arizona, the single digits in offense and defense, but Miami, they just came down there and beat them in their own house.
Yeah, Miami, right now they're playing with house money, and they've won the last 2 games over the Rams and Arizona, games that I'm sure a lot of people, when they looked at the schedule, counted as losses for the Dolphins, yet were outgained in each of those wins against the Rams and the Arizona Cardinals. They were outgained by 100 yards or more in each of those contests. So they're getting it done with smoke and mirrors, Ron.
Yeah, Denver taking on the Raiders. Now, Raiders, fortunate to get that win on Sunday against the Chargers, but it's so tough to win on the road, right? And the win's a win, and it's just, man, the Chargers just keep. Well, we'll get to that in a minute.
Miami, are they? I mean, I know we covered. I don't want to get off track here, but I know you had this thing last week where we looked at teams that are ranked in the top 10 offensively and defensively. Looking at that number for Miami right now, at 27.75, that's their offensive output per game?
Yep.
Okay, number 5. I'd be curious, are they ranked in the top 10 defensively? That might be something to look at, because I know that you isolated like 4 teams to keep an eye on. Arizona was one of them.
Yeah.
I believe Baltimore was another one. Pittsburgh was another one where they ranked in the top team in offense and defense. I didn't mean to get you off track, Ron.
Yeah, no,
but it just came to my mind because that's pretty surprising. If you would have told anybody after week 9 of the season that Miami would be ranked in the top 10 in offense and defense. Now, I don't know for sure if they're ranked in the top 10 in defense scoring, but I know they're pretty good in that regard. I thought they were number 1 in scoring.
They were.
Defense
They were last week number 1. They were number 1 against points against.
Yeah.
So just to keep in mind to the audience, this is points against, not yards. So what we're looking at, and as much as I like the yards, we're in the point spread business, and to me, it's all about points.
It is, but sometimes final scores can be misleading.
Yep.
But over the long haul, this will the big picture will show the truth, right? So sometimes I'll refer to they got outgained by 100 yards or more, like Miami has the last 2 weeks, Ron. It's only to bring it to people's attention that they might have got a little bit lucky in that regard. So we'll see. You know what I'm saying? It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, but over the long haul, the points for and points against doesn't lie when you get a big sample size like you're showing here.
Yeah. Oh no. How many times have we seen a game where the team out yards the other team, but turnover and penalties say another,
the Rams and Dolphins 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the Rams outgained them 471 to 145, yet the Dolphins won that game 28-17. So
yeah, and there's Russ Culver, handicapper that I grew up watching, and one of the smartest guys that I followed. He kept saying the teams, even though they might not look flashy, but they always find ways to win. You got to keep riding those teams, and a team like Miami. When I saw that fumble recover for a touchdown this week, and again, I said, "Oh man, there's that angle again." Like they just find ways to their defense is like an offense,
right?
That keeps scoring points, right?
And it goes hand in hand with confidence, right, Ron? I mean,
Yeah.
if you keep finding ways to win, you always believe you're going to find a way to win. And you compare that to the Chargers, who are 2-6 and lost 6 games by 7 points or fewer. That's a team that's playing with no confidence or has the "here we go again" attitude when they start blowing a lead again. And they lost the last 2 games right down to the last play of the game, losing at Denver on the last play of the game with a Denver touchdown. And then last week, they had a touchdown overturned with no time left on the clock that would have won the game. So, yeah, I mean, it goes hand in hand with confidence. You got one team, if you look at Miami and the Chargers, pretty comparable probably offensively. And you would have to say to Justin Herbert's a more established quarterback as a rookie than Tua right now. Even though Tua is at a small sample size, but it's perfect what you're saying, Ron.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Teams finding a way to win against teams with that "here we go again, how are we going to lose this one" attitude like the Chargers have right now.
Yeah, and when you see a team like Arizona going into that game as a 4.5-point favorite, and Miami comes out with that touchdown, and you as a bettor, you're starting. I'm always like 2-3 plays ahead, and I'm saying, "Oh God, here we go." Now we got to try to find ways to
overcome when you have the favorite in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hard to overcome, and then you're saying you got this number 1 ranked defense last week. This is not going to be easy, and I just knew after that touchdown, I said, "Here we go again." Valda, I'm probably crying over spilt milk because I had a good week. But
I hear you. I lost the same game, Ron. So yeah. I feel your pain. Here's what I'll say about this matchup this week: Miami and the Chargers. I always profess, think like a bookmaker.
Yeah.
You're looking at one team that's 5-3, and it's won 4 in a row, covered 4 in a row. So not only have they on a 4-game win streak, they've covered all 4 of those games against a Chargers team that's 2-6. Yet the Dolphins are like a 2.5-point home favorite. That jumped right out at me. That's one of those games that jumped out on me Monday morning when I looked at the line. So
yeah, hey, we should call it the 10-second capper, eh?
Yeah,
because you can almost make a. All right, San Fran taking on New Orleans. Man, San Fran just who knows what the roster is going to look like this weekend. Looking at 18 on offense, 10th on defense. The defense still a top 10 defense when you think about it. The Saints ranked 4 on offense, 14th on defense, and last week they were ranked 23rd on defense. So they made quite a bit of a jump. And that's one thing I'll probably have to ask the programmers. Put some arrows to see if they're back and up or down this week from last week, right? A little my subconscious talking to me right there. Seattle
like an arrow +9 or an arrow down -9. Like they went up the rankings. In this particular instance, they went from 23rd to 14th, an arrow with a +9.
Yeah, that's a good.
Where you were last week,
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
It's an idea, my man.
Yeah, no, I like it because again, I'm thinking, okay, if they're ranked at 10th, what were they last week? So yeah, it's good. See, I like that. We're doing some quality control here during the show. Quality. Seattle taking on, man, talk about Jekyll and Hyde, right? Seattle number 1 ranked offense, but only the Jets. I think the Jets and the Cowboys are worse. Let me see here. No, Jaguars. The Jaguars and Cowboys. Not something they're really proud of here. But the Rams, this is what surprised me a bit, with McVay at the helm and Jared Goff. You either believe in him or you don't, right? With Goff, and he's got a lot of guys who really back him up, and then there's a lot of guys who are skeptical on him. I'm still in that camp where I don't know if he's a top 10 quarterback yet. But the Rams, what are they, 5-3 or something like that?
Yes, 5-3 coming off their loss against Miami, and they're coming off a bye week going into this matchup. So Look at the Rams defense, second in scoring right now. So a huge edge there in defense. And I think the Rams, here's where you have to sometimes look inside the numbers here, or look at your eye test too. The Rams are a much better offense than 22nd in scoring right now. I just think they've had a couple games where they've, like you said, and it goes hand in hand with Jared Goff, his inconsistencies. He's either really good or very average. You know what I mean? And that's hindered them. So I have a slight lean toward the Rams early in this when looking at this game. So I'm going to have to look into it further, Ron.
Okay. Cincinnati taking on Pittsburgh. I got a great angle on the Bengals here this weekend. When Cincinnati's a road underdog in the month of November, coming off 2 home games since '83, they are 10-0 against the spread in their next game.
Yeah.
So I saw that and I saw, wow, 7.5 points. And you got a Steelers team who I think coming off 2 tough games prior to the Dallas game, they got caught in a bit of a rope-a-dope situation with the quarterback situation in Dallas, thinking, okay, you know what? We don't have to worry about Dak. Andy Dalton's not playing. The kid from James Madison, DiNucci, we don't think he's going to start. And then they go with Gilbert. And I think they got they let the foot off the pedal a bit, and they got a little too close to comfort.
Should have lost the game, really. I mean, you know what? Like you alluded to, Ron, they're coming off games against 2 elite AFC teams in Tennessee and Baltimore. The physicality of those 2 games, they go on the road as a huge favorite at Dallas. And again, folks, keep an eye on those home underdogs of 10 or more. Throw the records out the window. If you brained your way through home underdogs of 10 or more over the last 30 years, and sided with them, you've done awfully well.
Yeah. Cincinnati, a little shocking, a little surprising, 20th on offense. I thought it'd be more in the higher teens, but it is what it is. I think Cincinnati's having a pretty decent year, considering that they were the last place team last year in the NFL. And defense, there's some work to be done there, but on offense, I thought for some reason, I thought that they'd be a little bit higher.
If you look at their total yards, it doesn't match their points scored. And what that tells me, and from watching Cincinnati a little bit, they bog down in scoring position, settle for a lot of field goals. They don't finish off drives real well. It's got nothing to do with Burrow. It's just the offense in general. And also the turnovers, and they had one really bad offensive game against the Baltimore Ravens, Ron, in which that dragged that number down.
Yeah. That's true. Baltimore ranked 8th on offense, which is a little surprising. I thought it'd be a little higher. And number 1 defense. And the Patriots, obviously they're not having they're not having a really good year. It's like a rebuild. 28-12 offense to defense. And let's be honest, they got lucky on Monday night where the Jets just
self-destructed.
Wow. Yeah. Minnesota, Chicago. It's gonna be a great Monday nighter. This will be that's a nice matchup. You got a Vikings team who's very competitive, just got unlucky, and now facing the Bears here on Monday night. 12 and 25th on defense. The way it was starting at the beginning of the year, you thought it'd be 32 on defense, right? The way they were able to pass on them. But the Bears defense, bend don't break, right? Ranked in 7th. Last week they were 8th, but still 29th on offense. I'm hearing rumblings that Nagy might give up the play calling, which is a good move on his call if he gives it up.
Well, if he keeps losing after that 5-1 start, he might give up the head coaching job too.
Yeah. Hey, and Jerry Glanville.
I will say this: the Bears, an encouraging note, they had 370 yards of total offense against Tennessee last week. So that's encouraging, but they still can't run the ball, Ron. They're a terrible running team. If you look at they're 5-4, if you look at their last 7 games, they had one game where they ran for like 105 yards, and everything else is like 60 and lower. So you got to run the ball in the NFL. You got to be able to run the ball, not all the time, but you have to have some type of consistency in your running game.
Yep. Last Thursday, we had the Packers taking on San Francisco. Packers look good on offense. Devontae Adams, he's really come up. If he can stay healthy, he could really
shatter some records.
Oh yeah, shatter some records and really put him in the conversation as one of the best top 5 receivers in the league. But to me, before you start putting guys in that pedestal, you got to have a couple of years under your belt, and you got to have a really good resume, right?
Yeah, you'd be hard pressed to say he's not the best right now. I mean, I don't know, who you can compare him to. I mean, you have the kid from Seattle having a heck of a year, DK Metcalf, but I mean, Devontae Adams, he's putting up double-digit receptions. His percentage of receptions to targets is extremely high. He's stretching the field. He's scoring. His average per catch is extremely high. So, yeah, I would be hard pressed at this moment in time to say who's a better receiver than Devontae Adams.
Yeah. Couple of our users roster saying, "Hey guys, Kelvin Johnson. Hey guys, I like Northern Illinois +7 tonight. I don't really like anything tonight. I haven't really, be honest.
That line must have came down because it was 8.5 when I looked. If it came down to 7, Calvin, again, when I went over that game, I did make a point that Northern Illinois probably is a side to look at. So I wouldn't disagree with you there.
Okay. And then Big Ragu, he shout out to Ron and Ross. How you doing, boys? Well, we're just cooking here. Hey, like Russ Wilson, let Russ cook. We're letting Ross cook here.
Yeah, a lot of pasta, Big Ragu, a lot of pasta. Sunday afternoons, that's what we're trying to do here. Sunday afternoons, throw the pasta in front of us, and we're trying to eat.
Yeah, let the meatball stick, right?
Exactly.
All right, the Giants. Speaking of Big Ragu and his Giants, taking on Washington. So that's why he's chiming in here, because his Giants won, so he's feeling cocky right now.
Well, you should feel. Go ahead, Ron. I don't want to steal your thunder here. I'm going to make a point with the Giants, though. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. Hey, you know what? Since they've always been competitive all year, and you look at their game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man, if they could have pulled off that upset, would have been their.
They lose by 1 at Philadelphia. You know what I mean? They lose by 3 at Dallas on the last play of the game. I mean, I think their last 5 games have been decided by 3 points or fewer, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, take a look at that, Ron.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it up right now. Yeah, Big Ragu says the Manicotti or something like that.
Manicotti, Ron.
Sorry. Hey, that's the French guy in me, right? Oh, yeah, let me bring up this Giants record here. Jeez, there's so many stats. It's just a big site. But yeah, no, you know what? And Daniel Jones, he's looking really good.
Yeah, if he could prevent himself from making some stupid mistakes that he makes at times. And again, people lose sight of the fact this kid's only in his second year, Yeah. And they threw him into the fire last year because Eli Manning was ineffective in his last year. But the Giants, I just alluded to the fact that number 13 in scoring defense, and that defense continues to get better. Also, you can make a case, right? I mean, they're starting to run the ball well, even without Saquon Barkley. So let's look. 23-20, 23-25, 21-22, 2019, 37-34. Last 5 games have all been decided by 3 points or less.
Wow.
I personally right now think they got to win. If they beat Philadelphia this week, I like their chances to win the NFC East.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
going to go out on a limb and say that because, Ron, look at the NFC East. I mean, if Philadelphia is leading right now with a 3-4-1 record, okay? If they lose this game against the Giants this week, they're 3-5-1, and the Giants are 3-7. In Philly, so we'll see, but I like the Giants the way they're playing. I'm really impressed with Joe Judge. I think he's doing a great job with this team. And this team can, very easily be more like 4-5 or 5-4 instead of 2-7 right now.
Yeah, and they have the best defense. I'm looking to see. So the Cowboys, obviously, they're at 32 on defense. The Giants, 13th. The Eagles at 18th. And then where's Washington? The Washington football team. Washington.
The only problem this week is Golden Tate was suspended for the game for what happened at the end of the prior game, and So you take a weapon away from them. They're not a team that's deep at wide receiver. Darius Slayton has been really good as a deep threat. The tight end, Evan Ingram. A lot of people say he underachieves, but he's a better than average tight end. So we'll see. In Philadelphia, you don't know what you're going to get from them, Ron.
No.
They've been so inconsistent, you know, and in their defense, they've been banged up on both sides of the ball too. Carson Wentz, you don't know what kind of game he's going to have. The guy looks like a world beater one week, and the next week he's thrown to a different color, you know, so.
Yeah, you got to remind him he's wearing a green jersey.
Yeah, exactly.
Big Ragu says you're now his best friend.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. I'm okay with that, Big Ragu. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you're always welcome to my place for some Sunday pasta, Ross. So there you go. You got yourself
if I make it north of the border, whenever they lift these restrictions someday, I certainly will take you up on that, Big Ragu.
Right on. Seattle taking on Buffalo. Let's stay with the Big Blue. There's the real Big Blue now. It's the Buffalo Bills. A nice win. You know what, Ross? You know, there's good wins and really like okay wins. That was a great win for the Bills this Sunday.
Yeah, it was a signature win, is what we like to call it, right, Ron? That phrase that people like to throw around. You know, even though you look at Buffalo, they've also beat Miami, who's 5-3. They beat the Rams, who are 5-3. So it's not like they've played, and they've been their schedule has been really tough. I mean, their two losses came against Kansas City and against Tennessee. You know, so it's not like they're losing the teams they should be beating. The two teams they lost to, and keep in mind, those two games came in back-to-back weeks, and their schedule got thrown out of loop in those 2 weeks because they were supposed to play Kansas City on a Thursday night, and that got pushed back to the following Monday. And then the Tennessee game the week before was supposed to be on a Sunday, and it was played on a Monday because of the COVID thing going on with Tennessee. Yep. So, I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but you know,
every team has a bad week. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to be the 18-0 or 16-0 Dolphins, or you know, even Kansas City lost this year. You know what I mean? Teams, it's a long season, and you had a bad scheduling, a bad situation, and then you had forced to play out of routine. But you know what? This is a good Buffalo Bills team, and don't sleep on them. Don't sleep on this Bill team.
You know, only two NFL players and NFL quarterbacks in NFL history have ever thrown for over 400 yards. It's only been done twice, I should say. Thrown for over 400 yards, thrown for 3 or more touchdowns in a game, and had a quarterback rating of 130 or greater. Those 2 times that happened, once was last week with Josh Allen against Seattle. The other NFL quarterback who achieved that feat was Josh Allen earlier this year against the Miami Dolphins. So he was named AFC Player of the Week, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Offensive Player of the Week, excuse me.
Yeah. And I guarantee you, Sean Payton looks at Josh Allen and says, man, this is a bit like Taysom Hill in this player, because he can run. He can run like Taysom Hill can, right?
Yeah, a lot more. He's a lot more talented than Taysom
Hill. No, I'm not talking about passing. I'm talking about the way, when you see Taysom Hill come down on power, on a counter power, quarterback power, you don't want to get in front of that. He's coming in at a high speed. He's like a fullback. He's like Mike Allstott coming at you right there.
You can make a case he's underutilized too, Ron. I think part of the reason he is because he's the backup quarterback. I think if they utilized him a little more and incorporated him into the offensive game plan a little more, you'd see a lot more effectiveness from him. But, you're between a rock and a hard place. You got Jameis Winston too, right? But technically right now, Taysom Hill is your backup quarterback too.
Yeah. But the way he can run, man, it's just another weapon. It's such a weapon to have on 3rd and short when you got a quarterback who can run out of shotgun and run power, right? Yeah. Baltimore at Indy. Indy reminds me a bit like Baltimore. They can play good against Detroit and all those type of teams, but when they face a good defense, and we talked about it last week, right? whenever you put pressure on Phillip Rivers and you got to make him make a quick decision, he doesn't seem to excel in those type of situations.
Oh, and he's got a tendency to throw it up for grabs at times, right, Ron? When he's pressured like that.
Yeah. So it wasn't a good week for the Colts, and now this last weekend, Minnesota looked out of the gate, looked great, and their first home win of the season, believe it or not. Who would have thought that?
Yeah. So the Vikings are starting to come on, and another team similar to the Giants, 3-5, and they have 2 losses by exactly 1 point. One of them was the Tennessee, and I can't recall the other one, but very easily could be a 5-3 team right now. And Ron, you brought up a good point. Their defense was extremely porous to start the year, and it's starting to come on a little bit now. As long as Dalvin Cook stays healthy, he ran for over 200 yards last week. This is a dangerous team, especially as an underdog.
Yeah, Minnesota was my free pick this week, and one of the reasons why is that when your starting quarterback hasn't been at practice all week, getting reps, virtually it's not the same. Ask New England, right? New England, the same thing against Denver. Whenever you're not in rhythm and you're out of your routine and you're missing your starting quarterback, it just throws everything out of loop. Then you got to start adjusting your playbook, your practice plans. I knew it was going to be a very tough spot for the Lions, and they didn't have Galladay. So it wasn't a good.
He got hurt early on in that game, correct, Ron? If I'm not mistaken, or was he out from the get-go? And I know that they pulled Stafford in the third quarter in that game too.
Yeah, they knew, right?
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Panthers, Kansas City. This was my 5-star best bet. And one of the reasons why was the accuracy of Teddy Bridgewater, second most accurate quarterback in the NFL. Carolina, you know what? They're not a bad football team. It's just that whenever they don't have McCaffrey, it's a big weapon out of the lineup. And having him there this weekend, I knew they'd be. Sorry, he'd be a difference. And Kansas City, I thought there'd be a little bit of a letdown here spot for them because they played I think this was like their third home game or second or third home game in a row. Kansas City, another double-digit favorite. Eventually, I thought there'd be like a weak spot for them here, and sure enough, it was, right, because they had Denver, they beat Denver, and then they had the Jets, and then so this was the third game in a row where I think they were a double-digit favorite, and I said, okay, you know what, this is a good spot. You get a good quarterback coming in who's accurate and who can run. Man, did you see that fourth down play where he just dove like 5 yards to get 4th and 2? Man, when you see stuff like that, it's
it lifts the whole team up. It lifts the whole offense up when you see that. Just putting his behind on the line like that, putting his body on the line, especially a guy who went through such an excruciating knee injury a couple years ago, playing with that kind of abandon. You know what I mean, Ron? So, the thing is, with McCaffrey in the lineup, they're a whole different team, offensively anyway. It opens up things for Bridgewater in the play action pass game too. You know what I mean? Now you have a threat. You got a nice safety valve when you go back to pass and McCaffrey. And you also keep the defense on your toes in terms of keeping them honest with the play action game. Unfortunately, he hurt his shoulder last week, McCaffrey, and he's listed as questionable going into this week. So keep an eye on that.
Yeah. And that's one reason why I took it, right? Carolina +10 with McCaffrey, Carolina +10 without McCaffrey. Yes. Huge mindset difference there.
Absolutely.
So,
great Houston, call on your part.
Thanks, buddy. Houston taking on Jacksonville. I'll be honest, I didn't even watch this game. Like, I saw it on the red zone. I can only watch 4 games at once on Sunday, Ross. It's so tough to watch all these games, but Houston, Jacksonville, your thoughts?
You got a 1-7 team, 1-6, 1-7 team. I think Houston 1-7, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Is a touchdown favorite on the road against another horrible team who hasn't lost since their season opener. There's better value on the board.
Yeah.
When you look at games like that, you know what I mean? I didn't watch that game. If you bet on that game and you won, God bless you. But that wasn't a game that I had any focus on whatsoever.
Denver against Atlanta. I think Atlanta are they playing this week or they got a bye, right? I think they have a bye this week. I don't see them on the board here. I'm pretty sure they have a bye. So I'll just bring up their. All right, Denver against the Falcons. Now the Falcons were a 4.5-point home favorite. Good win, a good win. I think the Falcons, since they let go of Quinn, have been a little bit. I wouldn't even say they're more competitive. They should be competitive. They got such a great offense. The defense is just absolutely
horrible.
Oh, yeah, their defensive pass defense. What are they ranked on defense here? Let me see, Atlanta. Yeah, 23rd. They're giving up 27.8 points against.
That doesn't tell the whole story, too.
No, but they couldn't stop a nosebleed on defense.
Yeah. Drew Lock threw for 360 yards in that game. That tells me everything. And you know what? If you, like I told Ron, Raheem Morris, now the interim head coach of Atlanta, he was a defensive coordinator prior to his promotion. What's that tell you? You're terrible on defense. So what do? You promote your defensive coordinator to head coach, similar to Romeo Cornell in Houston. And like I told Ron, if you missed the last show, I told Ron, who used to be a coach in Canadian high school football and college football, Ron, I think you should apply for a defensive coordinator job in the NFL. And if you're lucky enough to get one, just make sure your defense is terrible, because if the coach gets fired, you're next in line, buddy. And all of a sudden, Ron Raymond would be an NFL head coach.
I'll brush up on my resume. Yeah. Tennessee taking on the Bears, 24-17. And, we talked about this prior last week. If Tennessee would fall behind, it'd be tough for them to catch up because they're not a passing team. But the Tennessee secret is easy. Just make sure you get a lead, run the ball. And the Chicago, same thing, right? Worst, one of the worst offense. But they, the thing is, they can show spurts of glimpse of being a decent offense. But man, when they're bad, they're bad.
Look, Tennessee is not a good defensive team, Ron. And they've been bailed out because what's their record now? 6-2. They've forced 14 turnovers in 8 games. Otherwise, your defensive statistics would look a lot worse than they currently are. They gave up 370 yards to the Bears. Okay, if a couple of turnovers really helped them in that game, and again, it's an alarming factor to me going forward. Keep that in mind, because sooner or later you're not going to force the amount of turnovers that you've been doing right along, and that lack of defense is going to hurt you somewhere. Especially when you're laying points with Tennessee. They got lucky last week. They covered as a 6.5-point favorite, but they were outplayed in that game. They had less than 300 yards of total offense. Derrick Henry was held to somewhere around 60 yards, if I'm not mistaken, Ron.
Yeah.
So to me, Tennessee right now, to me, is fool's gold, Ron.
Yeah, I agree. And look at this. Another home game for Tennessee. That'll be their 6th one. And they've only had 3 home games, road games. Yeah. So think about that. Like, they got to go, 6. They only have 2 home games left. And now they're going to have the rest on the road. So they still have 5 road games.
5 of their last 7 right on the road.
Yeah. So they're in for a tough ending here for the end of the season, but by being on the road a lot, right? And we say it's tough to win in NFL, even tougher when you're on the road. The Raiders taking on the Chargers. Man, what a game! What I was fortunate enough to be with the Raiders on that selection, and it just, what a last 6 seconds of that game. Like they got lucky to get an extra second left at the end, and sure enough, that ball went right through his hands. And man, I feel bad for Anthony Lynn. I just feel like this coach is just he just got bad luck, and he looks like such a nice guy too, right?
He's a good coach. Look, I mean, this is the same coach that led him to the playoffs the first year he was there. So the bottom line is that, again, not to belabor the point, but the Chargers are 2-6, and all 6 of their losses have come by 7 points or fewer. The last 2 losses, you saw Denver get a pass interference call in the end zone to prolong the game by one play with no time left, and then they score on the ensuing play to beat the Chargers. And then last week, Mike Williams, a ball he usually comes down with, and then the last call, which was the right call, Ron, it got overturned and it was the right call.
Yep.
But still, they initially called it a touchdown, and you're going, finally, we won a close game, and then it gets taken away. So you got to question and be concerned with the Chargers' mindset going forward. Like I said before, Ron, they've blown, I think, 4 games where they've had a double-digit lead in games this year. So on top of the tough losses the last 2 weeks and all the close losses, they've blown big leads. So you got to wonder about their mindset at this particular moment in time, Ron, because they're 2-6, virtually out of any kind of playoff consideration. And where do they go from here? We'll see how good Coach Anthony Lynn is and how much character that Chargers team has going forward.
Yeah, they say good teams find a way to win. Unfortunately, the Chargers find a way to lose. Like it's just every week it's bad luck. There's nothing you can just say about it. Like this, they're just they're stricken with bad luck. Great game in Miami. I mean, Arizona against the Cardinals against Miami. 34-31. Tua against Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, man,
he's good. He's good, man.
He threw a ball that must have been like 60 yards in the air for a touchdown, and I was like, wow, what an amazing athlete he is. And he's so fast out of the pocket.
Roadrunner, like I told you last week, Ron. Roadrunner. That's what he reminds me of.
Yeah, he's shifty, but he doesn't have like the long strides. Like he'll just burst out, but like he'll never. I don't see him ever taking one like 45 yards to the house, because I don't think he's fast burst, but I don't think he's fast like gear fast. Like put it in second gear.
He was the number 1 draft choice by the Oakland A's as well. That shows you a little bit about his athleticism. And again, similar to Russell Wilson, an undersized quarterback with a big arm, which you don't come across very often. And then one with mobility that can extend plays, very difficult to get to. You can run him in the RPO. Arizona is very difficult to defend, Ron. This game coming up against Buffalo, as a Buffalo fan, I would be concerned. I would like Buffalo's chances a lot more if Arizona would have won last week. You know what I mean? But coming off a loss now, in the manner in which they did. And if you watch the end of that game, the Arizona field goal kicker, talk about Miami having everything bounced their way. 48-yard field goal with no time left on the clock was dead center, Zane Gonzalez, and it came up short. Who comes up short on a 48-yard field goal in the NFL? You know what I mean?
Zane Gonzalez does. That's who.
Yeah, but it just goes to show you how Miami has been, again, I'm not trying to throw cast stones in him. I give him a lot of credit. I love Brian Flores. You know that. Yeah. I said that before the season started. But they're getting a lot of breaks go their way, Ron.
Well, I'm going to cheer you up here, Ross. Your good friend Lloyd McCullough says, hey.
Hey, Lloyd, what's going on, my man? That's Lloyd, my man out there.
Yeah, right on. Thank you for tuning in, Lloyd. We appreciate you.
Absolute gentleman, Lloyd is.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so New Orleans, Tampa Bay, going into this game again. Two good football teams. When you boil it down, Drew Brees was on target that night. Tom Brady. The warning signs were there against the Giants. Slow to start against the Giants game. And slow to start. Well, they never got going. Let's be honest. They never got going against the Saints. And now, if you're Tampa Bay, you got to be a little bit worried now. The NFC South, it looks like it's going to have to go through the Superdome. Whoever is going to want to go to a Super Bowl. Drew Brees. Again, this New Orleans team, they're not when they're a favorite, they'll win the game, but they won't cover for you. But man, as an underdog, the last 3, 4, 5 years, boy, are they money in the bank.
Yeah, and I tell you what a terrific road team they've been. Ron, since 2018, they're now 17-3 straight up on the road in regular season road games. So, and Tampa Bay, here's what I don't get, Ron. You look at that box score, they only 5 rushing attempts the whole game. What's up with that? You know what I
Wow.
mean? And it's not like Brady was throwing the ball all over the field. He only had 190 yards of total offense in that game. You know, it goes to show you the NFL how unpredictable it could be sometime, and you have to make uncomfortable plays at times. You looked at that Tampa Bay team and say, okay, they got it all going now. Godwin's coming back this week from a broken finger injury. We're adding Antonio Brown. Now we got 4 good receivers. Brady's getting comfortable with all his receivers, and the defense is playing well. And then what happens? New Orleans crushes them 38-3 and holds them to less than 200 yards of total offense. But I don't understand. I don't recall. I can't remember any game where I can remember in the NFL in recent memory where a team only tried 5 rushing attempts. So I don't know what was going on there, but it certainly wasn't a remedy for success.
Well, I'll put on my coach's hat, and I think it was they knew it was time to play catch up, and the only way they can get big chunks and try to get back in that game was by throwing the ball.
Again, I mean, you could run the ball 5 times in your first drive of the game, for crying out loud. I understand that part of it, Ron. You know,
Yeah.
you have to abandon the run because you're so far behind. But it seems to me, and again, I didn't watch the entire game, okay, but it seems to me they abandoned the run way too quickly, and they went in with a pass first mentality, and it didn't work. So
Hey, you mentioned something right there, the uncomfortable pick. Let's take
Yeah.
a look this week, and we'll get back to the other couple of games. Let's go back to the top here, and let's designate uncomfortable picks.
Yeah.
San Fran, unfortunately, would have been an uncomfortable pick, right?
Yep.
Okay. Washington Giants, not really. Seattle, Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo, you would have said was an uncomfortable pick based
Yeah.
on what led into that game.
Yeah.
You know,
So there's a 1-1. Baltimore, Indy, not really. Detroit, Minnesota,
not really.
not really. Carolina,
Definitely was.
yeah, there's 2-1. Houston, Jacksonville, not
Yes.
really. Denver, Atlanta,
Yes.
Chicago, Tennessee.
Probably the Bears would have been an uncomfortable pick.
Really?
Only
Not me.
because of the, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
probably you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Raiders, Chargers, not really.
No, the
Miami.
Dolphins probably were an
Yeah,
uncomfortable
Dolphins
pick.
would have been uncomfortable pick. So
Yep.
there's 2-1.
Yep.
Saints, definitely 3-1.
Yep.
Cowboys, 4-1.
Absolutely, Dallas.
And the
right?
Jets, 5-1. So
Absolutely the Jets. So
yeah. So hey, you know what? Those uncomfortable picks that you and this is a good and this is what I love about our show, Ross, is from the sports betting point of view, and we've been saying this and preaching this since day one. There are times in the NFL, even in college football, you're gonna have, mostly in the NFL though, there's weeks where you're gonna look and you're gonna hate yourself for taking that pick because it's very uncomfortable. It goes against what everybody believes in. It goes against what maybe the line is telling you what to do. But sometimes you got to hold your nose and take those picks because, as you can see, the uncomfortable picks went 5-1 last week.
yeah, exactly. I mean, and again, keep in mind, folks, I hate to keep bringing this up. It doesn't come into play this week, but going forward, keep an eye on these home underdogs of 10 or greater. The Jets did close at 8.5, but I got them at 10. And the Dallas Cowboys at plus 14, and specifically within the parameter of plus 10 to plus 14 at home. Those NFL home underdogs of 10 to 14 have cashed in at an enormously high rate since 1980. The sample size is large enough where you could determine that's not a fluke anymore. So and then you get a situation like Ron touched upon, Dallas plus 14, looking terrible, down to their 3rd string quarterback, but they're playing a Pittsburgh team who had just coming off games at Baltimore and at Tennessee, and it was their 3rd road game in a row. And they played 2 of the elite teams in the AFC on the road, and now they're playing the end of a 3-game road trip against a team that's probably one of the worst in the NFC right now. So
yeah, great call. You know what? Great observation by you. Because you forget. I mean, I always remember when I was with Ottawa U, and Breezy used to say it all the time. You got to travel well, and I never understood what he meant by that. And and he goes, you got to travel well, and you got to as soon as you travel and you're out of your comfort, you're out of your home routine, your weekly routine, and now you're going to a different city. You're probably having hotel issues. The food is not that good, maybe.
And you're playing a team that everybody thinks you're going to beat.
Yeah. And it's just you always say, I say it all the time, expect the unexpected. And nobody expected this. And sure enough, Dallas, hey, they came close to pulling it off, right?
Yeah. And on the other side of the coin, New Orleans travels awfully well.
Yeah.
Like I said, 17-3 since 2018 in the regular season road games.
You tell me the law of average doesn't work. Yeah. New York Jets taking on the Patriots. Again, this is a game where Mrs. Raymond wasn't too happy. There'll be no Christmas.
Explain that to the folks, because there's a lot of survivor pool players out there.
And you know what? I was never a huge Survivor guy until this year. Like, I played in a couple of online ones, some big ones there, and my wife plays in one with her work, and she was in one where there were like 50 people playing, and there was only 4 left, and she took KC, and the other 3 participants had New England this week. Wow. Yeah. And sure enough, when she was looking in the fourth quarter, it was 27-17. She was kind of a little happy, a little bit.
She was counting her money. She was counting.
She had a little bounce in her step there.
You know what? Mrs. Raymond's had a tough 2 weeks. First of all, Ron irresponsibly let the dog chew her favorite shoes 2 weeks ago, and then this happens this week. So I think Ron owes her a pretty good dinner.
Yeah, I think the night at the keg is in order here. But yeah, so New England, hey, it's after, man, they're tough to handicap these games now, the Patriots, because Cam Newton is just so inconsistent. He just, 1 week, he has that game against Seattle where he has a great week. And then, a couple of weeks ago against Denver, looked awful. And then Buffalo fumbles at the last, you got to protect the rock. Yeah. But then he manages at fourth quarter comeback against, even though it's the 0-8 Jets, a win's a win. And you win in the NFL. But man, if you're the Jets and you're a Jets fan, we feel for you.
No doubt about it. It's a perfect example. It's hard to win in this league, Ron.
Yeah.
And also, if you think it's easy, just look at Pittsburgh and New England this past week.
Yeah. So, okay. You know what? I love recapping these, because now, we're on to Hump Day Wednesday, and I've already started looking at the games this week. And now it's always good to get a refresh, right, Ross? And you go in with because you got to remember, and you also, whatever happened last week, you got to leave it to last week, because this week's a new week. And folks, again, Ross Benjamin has a 5-star best bet tonight on the game between Toledo.
No, not a best bet.
Sorry, a 5-star play. A 5-star play.
Let me just say this, Ron, if I can. I rate my plays 5-star and 10-star. Okay, 10-star is my top plays. I'll have 1 10-star top play in college football and 1 in the NFL every week. The majority of picks you're going to get from me are 5-star. So in terms of money management, I'm going to use a hypothetical figure. I don't care what you play per game, but this is what you have to do with my ratings. A 5-star play, if you played to win $100 on a 5-star, you would play to win $150 on a 10-star. You're not doubling up. So that's very important, because you don't want to lose a 10-star play with me and then have to win 3 games to be at a profit margin. So just very important. Tonight's a 5-star. I'll have a 10-star top play on Saturday in college football, in addition to a 10-star top play in the NFL on Sunday, as well as my other 5-star plays, Ron.
Awesome. And in order to get those selection, guys, once you go to the website, hit the single pick. And then once you get there, and there's Chip's got a standalone NFL Mega Bucks winner going for Sunday. And Ross has his selection. And also there's some system plays from the ATS Stats betting system plays that are up, which you can get right here at atsstats.com.
Yeah, I just want to touch upon Chip with those standalone plays. What he means by that, it's the only game on the board. Okay, so I believe that's his Thursday pick.
Okay.
And he's done extremely well on these standalone games this year, Ron.
Awesome. All right. Hey, good Hump Day Wednesday, Ross. And again, before we go, let's salute our veterans in the United States and Canada, Remembrance Day. We'd be remiss if we didn't, talk about them today and remember them. And hopefully everybody takes a minute to reflect. And hopefully everybody has a great day for today. All right, Ross, before we go, is there anything you'd like to add before we close?
Yeah, don't forget, you can go to my website as well for my articles and videos. I also put up free pick video at Ron's site, atsstats.com. My site is rbwins.com. If you want me to tailor a package for you that it's not included at ATS Stats or rbwins.com, I could do so. Just give me a call, 781-571-0299, 781-571-0299. I accept all major credit cards. I do not employ any salespeople. You'll talk to me and me only.
Yeah. And tomorrow, Ross, college football. We're breaking down 7 games, including Arkansas at Florida. We got Notre Dame at Boston College. I know you got
watch out, watch out.
You got something you want to share there. Miami, Virginia Tech, SMU against Tulsa. We have TCU against West Virginia, the good defense at West Virginia. Indiana coming off that big upset over Michigan last week. They're going to Michigan State, and then we're going to close it off with Georgia taking on Missouri. Georgia won't be in a good mood this weekend, coming off a big spanking to the Florida Gators in the biggest cocktail game or party in the world, as they like to label it.
The world's largest cocktail party, Ron.
Yeah.
Got to get that right, buddy. Come on.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's so big they got such a big hangover this week, right? So
yeah, we'll see. The fans do anyway, right? Yeah. Especially after a loss.
Yeah, so let's see if we can remedy that with some new.
I mean, and when you were drinking back in the days, it's like you wake up in the morning with a banging headache, and then you look in your pocket and you got all these crumbled up bills, and you start counting them, and you're hoping there's 10s and 20s in there, and they're all ones. So
wow, you're lucky you had bills left.
Yeah, exactly. So it's sort of the way the Georgia fans are feeling this week.
That's awesome. All right. Like Joe Bucks when he signs off, he's Ross Benjamin. I'm Ron Raymond. This was the Raymond Report Sports Betting Podcast for a Wednesday, Hump Day, November 11th. As always, folks, have yourself a great rest of your day. Shop for value, play those percentages. We'll see you back shortly with another